sure that everybody understands what we're talking about before we get into the subject, do you mind just defining what you mean by complex kids?
You know, I define complex kids as kids who struggle with some aspects of life or learning.
Hmm.
But I think I also will say to parents, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you probably don't have a complex kid. And if you do know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I mean when I say complex kid,
Yes,
right? So
that's
there's
right.
a definition and then there's an
So
experience.
I guess I'm going to start off by asking you this key question. I mean, why do you think it's so important to empower our complex kids?
There's a million answers to this question, right?
Hmm.
But here's what's coming up for me in this moment today. Um, our complex kids, our kids are the innovators of tomorrow. They are bright, and yes, they're quirky, but they're bright and capable and nuanced, and they have these incredible gifts. And being quirky in a complex world makes a lot of our time we spend, these kids feel directed and redirected and wrong and mistaken, and so we're not playing to their gifts, we're playing to their challenges, and so they begin to not see how incredible they are. So I
Hmm.
think it's really super important to empower them because they do have such capacity, and it's really easy to miss that with all of the complexities that they come with. Often, one of the things you've read about in the book, we talk about it, is to ask ourselves the question, is it naughty or neurological?
Yes,
Right? It's
that's a great.
huge.
Mhm.
It's a huge framework. It's really simple, but that's a mindset shift.
Mhm.
There's a tool we teach about the 4 phases of parenting, about knowing when and how to engage with your kid for empowerment and to begin to transfer agency to them, which is really what it's about. We talk a lot about asking permission. I think if I had to say one simple tool for parents of older kids to begin to shift, it's about asking for permission, not assuming it's okay to just take that teaching point and teach them something, right? At 17 years old, they may not be ready to hear it,
Mhm.
but to say, I have an idea, would you like to hear it?
Yep.
I have a thought about that. Can I share it with you?
What would you say to parents as they're sort of, listening to this and thinking, okay, I understand that, I have to work on, my own reaction to things. What words of advice do you have for families who are like, okay, maybe I'm not even sure what my triggers are? Like, you can
Ah,
name
yes.
some, but
Yeah.
like how do you go about helping your clients uncover what those triggers are?
So there are a lot of strategies, but my favorite, simplest one is to keep a trigger journal,
Hmm.
literally for like 3 days, and write down every time somebody gets triggered. And I don't care if it's you or the kid or the spouse or the dog, or, like, just write down, just notice, because you think,
Hmm.
we all think we know, but you begin to see patterns when you capture anytime anybody gets aggravated. And we teach a framework called the anatomy of a trigger in Sanity School and in our group coaching. And in that, there are kind of 3 levels. So we talk about, most of us are in aware. Most of the time we kind of walk around in a sense of awareness. Then when something happens, we kind of move to alert when we're starting to get triggered. And if we don't recognize the trigger and manage it and bring it back down to aware, we're going to go into alarm.
Yep.
But there's this period of alert, right? If we can begin to pay attention to that middle ground when we're starting to get triggered, and notice what's got me pulling my hair or rubbing my forehead or, gripping my fists or whatever. Notice what your physical tells are
Hmm.
when you start to get triggered. That's one of my favorites, because we all have these physical signs, that twitching eye, whatever it is. So notice your physical signs and begin to pay attention to what's happening, what's precipitating it, what's happening before it. Is it that you're hungry? Is it that you're worried? Is it like, what were the feelings? What are the thoughts? And we can begin to really, really dampen down our triggers significantly just by becoming aware of when we're hitting that alert stage.